Hello. Good morning. Hello. Duckley is first. I have bad news. Tom from Tom Tries It. He works third shift now, so it's really difficult for him to stay awake in the mornings. And so he has an excused absence. He did have a pass. It was excused from his family. So Tom will not be joining us. But Cool Banana's here. Happy Friday. Enels, hello. Eli. Steen, all right. Good morning. And T-Lag Pro is here on time. You don't even need a tardy pass. Banana. Hello, joint specialist. Who else we got here? We got Slow Snail Studios. Hello, welcome. Good Friday to you, Nuke. I don't know how to say your. How should I pronounce your profile name? Is weird. EXO. I'll just say EXO. EXO, welcome. Happy Friday. CB. Okay. Yeah. Well, I just found out about Don Lemon. Mrs. Beat texted me. And I just read one article about it. But apparently Don Lemon was arrested for being at that church in Minneapolis where people were protesting against ICE. They disrupted this church because this church was, I guess, showing some kind of support toward ICE, and people got angry about that. But then people got angry that they were, interrupting a church service. But Don Lemon says he was there to report, as a journalist, which if you haven't been following Don Lemon lately, he's doing great work because he's basically doing what Channel 5 does, one of my favorite YouTube channels. They just go around and put a microphone in front of people's faces and let them talk for the most part. Don has done a great job not really inserting his opinion much these days. He's just like reporting, like saying, okay, he's going on location to these places. And that's what he says he does. But apparently there are accusations that he was doing more than that. Regardless, this is horrifying. I think particularly, maybe in normal times it wouldn't be as big a deal, but okay, contrast this about what I just tweeted about this, but contrast this with the fact that the ICE agents who have been murdering civilians have not been arrested, not really even investigated yet, especially Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Those are the two that are getting the most attention because they were peaceful protesters who were just there watching, documenting, especially the Preddy murder, which happened, was it last Saturday, 6 days ago now? That we don't even know who killed him. At the time of this live stream, we don't know who killed Alex Preddy. And yet we have Don Lemon arrested. So they're arresting journalists, but they're not arresting people murdering American citizens in broad daylight in the streets for the whole world to see. Everyone sees it. It's all on camera. When I talked to you, when I warned you about the path towards fascism, towards authoritarianism, this is what I was talking about. This is just continuing us on this path. Stay focused though. We're not, for those people who say that, for those who say we are already a fascist state, I don't think that's accurate. I think that's actually hyperbolic. But we are certainly headed that direction. The fact that you can still talk out about this stuff, we still have free speech to a large extent. Most of us do. Some of us don't, apparently. But most of us still have free speech. Most of us still have our Second Amendment right to bear arms. Most of us still have most freedoms. They're still just targeting certain people. So it's not, don't just be all defeatist like, well, we're already a fascist state. It's authoritarianism is already fully here. It's partially here. It's getting worse, but don't lose hope because there are still a lot of people who are able to freely express themselves and fight back. And it's working. The pressure is working. So please don't lose hope. That's a big message I want to really portray, is that the people in power want us to feel powerless. So don't ever let them win regarding that. You also asked about Kevin Warsh. I mean, from what I know about Kevin Warsh, he's just somebody who's like an easy money guy, which means he wants lower interest rates. He wants more money pumped into the economy, which will probably lead to higher inflation. But Trump doesn't care about that. Trump cares about economic growth. Inflation doesn't matter to him because he's a billionaire. He has lots of money. All his friends have lots of money. So, and he keeps telling us day after day, he keeps gaslighting us. Every single day, Trump goes out to the media and says, inflation is down, inflation is down, inflation is down. And it's not. Inflation has been ticking up. That's why the Federal Reserve did not lower rates this past week. But that's also why Trump hates Jerome Powell now, even though he was the one who nominated Jerome Powell as the chairman of the Federal Reserve. Now he wants to get rid of him. And Powell's term is ending. I think it's ending in a few months. And so Trump is just waiting it out. So he's going to nominate his guy who will lower interest rates. But I don't know much about Kevin Warsh other than he's a easy money guy. He wants lower interest rates. Wow. Who Ty Jones, welcome for making it, and congrats for making it to the live. It's okay. Fair enough. Fascistic is you can say that. And yeah, like it doesn't mean we shouldn't be freaking out. We should be protesting. Speaking of which, today is a national blackout. So if you can, I get it if you can't. But if you can, this is the day that we're boycotting shopping. So whether that be going to the store or going out to eat or spending money at any public establishment, we're doing this to protest ICE. I just found out about this yesterday, so I'm trying not to buy anything today. It's really hard. I mean, this is from my cabinet. Okay, I didn't buy this anywhere. This is from my own house. My daughter wanted to go to Target. I said, hey, can we go tomorrow morning? I mean, I'm taking this very seriously. It's so hard to not spend your money. Actually, for me, it's pretty easy, but for most people, it's not. Well, hey, the Crafty Pixel. Whoa, look at that PFP. Project 454. I love that. 454. 4451. Nebulon's here. Wow. West Virginia has declared a holiday for Charlie Kirk. Well, guess what? They're not the only state. Here in Kansas, they're trying to do that as well. Here in Kansas, the legislature is praying now before the session begins or before each day begins. Christian nationalism is bursting through. Oh, we got somebody from Minnesota here. Wow. Our thoughts are with you. The whole country is watching Minnesota and actually quite inspired by Minnesotans. You will all be remembered in the history books. You're doing great work. Yeah, I should reach out to Heather Cox Richardson. She's been popping up on my feed a lot, understandably. She's a historian who's been very outspoken against the Trump administration. I don't even think she's in the classroom, and I don't think she's teaching anymore. She just does, rants on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube these days. She's great. I don't even think I know what her actual politics are, but her criticisms of the Trump administration are usually spot on from what I've seen. Yep, the anti-trans bill went through both chambers. The governor will probably veto it, but they still could override that veto. It's really messed up. I've actually been working more with people at the state level. I'm trying to get more involved with state politics because I realize that's where I can have more of an impact. And there's rumors going around that here in Kansas that Sharice Davids is going to run for Senate. I hope she does because I don't want to. People keep asking me still to run for Congress. I don't want to. I love my job. I want to keep doing this. I'm a communicator primarily, even though I'm an awkward one. So if she does decide to officially announce, I will endorse her. What did Charlie Kirk do to even deserve a holiday? Well, he was, he was an influential pundit, but he, I don't want to say much more than that. It's weird that people want to make statues of him, like, Martin Luther King. To me, that's kind of crazy, but what? Holy crap. Well, then, okay, so if she wants to make a video about the history of Kansas, I'm giving a presentation about the history of Kansas on February 17th at Washburn University in Topeka. I'm actually working on that presentation today. I've made a video about the history of Kansas. That was a long time ago. Yesterday was Kansas Day. And especially like our history of reform, and a lot of progress has been made across the country that started in Kansas, believe it or not. Anyway, that's pretty cool. I should reach out to her. Hey, Mrs. Beat, if you're watching, reach out to Heather Cox Richardson. Yes, it was. Yeah, that was probably the most upsetting thing I've seen in a long time, his murder. But also the fact that there are still Trump supporters who are saying that Preddy deserved it. That they're victim blaming. They've been victim blaming for all of these murders, but digging up as much dirt as they can about this wonderful man. There was new footage that came out that some people were saying was AI, but it looks like it's probably real, of him kicking a car of an ICE agent. Who the heck cares? Like, like that has made me like Alex Preddy even more, seeing that footage. So I don't know what they're trying to do. Like, they are so far gone, Trump supporters at this point. Even my dad, I always check in on him on stuff like this, and he was just like, yeah, that Preddy murder, that's not good. Even my dad, who generally falls right in line with whatever the Republican Party says. Oh, the Washburn presentation isn't public. I'm sorry, I messed that up. But hey, Mrs. B, could you please reach out to Heather Cox Richardson? Maybe. Yeah, everybody check out Andre Dutra's. I was going to react to it, but I already watched it. His video about specifically William Jennings Bryan, Nebraska too. Yep, Nebraska, where I also used to live. I lived there for 4 years. There's people forget that around 25 to 30% of not just Americans, but probably all human beings are okay with fascism. They are okay with not only authoritarianism, but also totalitarianism. Freedom is overrated for them. Actually, they still kind of like economic freedom. They like to make money, but they don't care about political freedom. That's whenever they do say they care about it, they're lying. And so now we're just kind of seeing people admit it, which in some regards is refreshing. But yeah, there's about 1 out of every 4 Americans are perfectly fine with fascism, whether they're willing to admit it or not. Oh, okay. They confirmed it wasn't AI. Yeah. But even if yeah, it's real, but still, I don't care. Like, is this supposed to like make us not like him anymore? Yeah, kicking the Gestapo's car. People keep comparing ICE to the Gestapo. I think it's more apt to compare them to the brown shirts because they're a paramilitary group that's specifically doing whatever the president wants. Yep. I mean, I think people should keep bringing up the Epstein files. That's a great quote by Benjamin Franklin. I love that quote so much. It's one of my favorite quotes in all of history. One of the few that is not by Mark Twain that's so good. Okay, so there's a couple things I wanted to look at this morning. First of all, I'm going to share my screen with you because this is just something that just really grinds my gears and it won't go away. The map that never dies. I still see this freaking map. Like every week, I see this map at some point, and then I see somebody respond as a top response, sometimes ratioing the original. Land doesn't vote. But I just wanted to address this because if you see this, I'm sorry. This is one of the things that just wants me to pull my hair out. I can't stand this. If you see someone share this map here, let me show you a closer up. This is what the White House tweeted a couple months ago. Something like this, where you have all these red counties and then blue counties, and they're like, see, there's a lot more red counties than blue counties. So there are two reasons why someone shares this map. The first reason is they're trying to trick you into thinking that the Republican Party is way more popular than it is. It's not a very popular party. Or the second reason why they share this with you is, how do I put this nicely? They're a bit ignorant when it comes to politics. Perhaps they don't understand how things work. And so if you do see someone sharing this who genuinely doesn't understand, this is my advice to you. And here's another example. This was shared by Laura Trump this goes back to 2019. These freaking maps, man, they will not die. They keep sharing them. But yeah, you could easily just say land doesn't vote. But I think if people are truly still not understanding, just say, hey, okay, 80% of Americans live in a city or town. Okay. Every single one of those counties you see on this map are not purely red, or not purely blue. They're all different shades of purple. So those are the 2 points I want to make. The fact that 80% of Americans live in cities or towns, and all of the counties are purple. They're not they're not blue or red. Maybe people will understand it a little bit better other than just saying land doesn't vote. But I'm sick and tired of seeing this because clearly this is just a visual. I mean, this is just a way to try to trick people into thinking that, oh, the Republican Party is really popular. But clearly, geographic area does not equal population density. We have a winner takes all system. And so when you're doing something like this, you're just showing winner takes all. Like, even if you'll see a red county on this map, even though barely over 50% of people voted Republican in that county. So yeah, there are alternative visualizations. I wanted to actually show you this one animation I found. I don't know who made this, but the website's trytoimpeachthis.jetpack.ai. This does a little bit better job, but even this is misleading. Even this is not really fully showing the reality here. So when I think the best response that I haven't heard anybody say, that's why I'm addressing this, just tell everybody, no, every single part of the country is purple. Some parts of the country are so purple, or a bluish purple. Other parts of the country are a more reddish purple. Yeah. Oh, Hank Green has good videos on this. I haven't seen that from him, but I do watch a lot of Hank Green. He's very influential on me. Oh yeah, let me show you the animations here. There's something cool that this does. Yeah. Yeah, see this cartogram. That kind of stuff is slightly effective. Look at Montana. All right. Anyway, the video we're going to react to today is a channel I've reacted to once before, and he keeps getting recommended to me. And I think this guy is older. He's a boomer, I think. God bless him. But this one really triggered me when I saw it, because I have multiple videos now about the party switch. And, 3 weeks ago, I released a video about the 7 party systems. The Republican Party of today is much different than not just 100 years ago, but even 20 years ago, for example. And the same with the Democratic Party. Used to be, if you were a member of the KKK, you were probably a Democrat. You were probably very racist. But now it's more likely, if you're racist, you're probably more likely to be a Republican. That doesn't mean that every Republican is racist. Most Republicans, I don't think, are. Oh, well, thank you, Eli. That's really nice of you. Extra credit for you. You get exempt from detentions for at least a month. Thank you very much. Yeah, the party switch truthers are still percent. That's another thing too. It's like, this is another myth that won't go away. And I get it, because like there was what's his name? I actually got to meet him once at the DNC. The Jank, the Young Turks guy, the main Young Turks guy, Jank Yeager. He had a response to the party switch that was purely just mentioning the Civil Rights Act, and I think it just completely missed the mark, because it's way more complicated than that. Oh yeah, Knowing Better had a video about it back in the day. Oh man, he's been working on a history of Hawaii video for like over a year at this point. I hope it comes out soon, because he's been working on that hard for a long time, and it's going to be like 2 hours, but I think it's going to be great. Anyway, Hassan's uncle. That's right. I forgot that Hassan Piker is related to him. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you. See, the extra are you guys catching on that you get extra credit if you compliment me about one of my videos? Thank you very much, Luma Moth. The guy who blamed the Palisades fire on DEI and I don't know, maybe. Anyway, let's go ahead and check out this video. I got to get my headphones on. So he's the name of it's debunking. He calls it debunking the myth of the party switch. What really happened? This got to be good. This got to be good. Make sure the volume's up here.
This is the story of one of the most controversial theories in American political history, the party switch. One of the great and often repeated myths in American politics is the great switch of the 2 primary political parties. One question often arises: how did the party of Abraham Lincoln become the party of the Southern conservative base? How did Democrats go from the party of segregation and lynching to the party of civil rights? Was there, in fact, a complete ideological switch? Let's clarify this situation. Was there really a full ideological switch between Democrats and Republicans? Today, we're going to break down the facts and the fiction behind this idea. What is the party switch theory? What is the historical reality? When did this supposedly occur? Was it ever true?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode.
Thank you for your service. Yeah, I've reacted to him once before.
The theory suggests that Democrats and Republicans swapped ideological platforms during the 20th century, especially on issues like civil rights, race, and the role of government. In this version of history, the Republican Party supposedly embraced the policies and the voters of the old Southern Democrats, while Democrats claimed to have transformed into champions of civil rights and minority causes.
Well, that's a simplification, oversimplification there. And this is a bit of a straw man. Clearly, there were many Republicans who supported civil rights, especially during the 1960s. But even in the 1950s, lots of Republicans started to go that way, especially New England Republicans. Anti-government, that's one of those things where I think that even the Democrats never were really fully anti-government, going back to Andrew Jackson. Equality for all, segregation. Okay, equality for all is a bit too broad of a thing to kind of just like pin to like one political party. But segregation, yeah, like overwhelmingly it was Democrats who supported segregation, racial segregation, primarily in the South, but other places. A few Republicans went along with it, but it was mostly the Democratic Party.
The Democratic Party, as we know it, was shaped by Andrew Jackson, a populist but also a slaveholder. The Republican Party, founded in the 1850s, was the party of Abraham Lincoln and born in opposition to the expansion of slavery, but not the abolishment of slavery. Please see our videos on Jackson and Lincoln. After the Civil War, Republicans pushed Reconstruction policies to protect the rights of freed Black people. Meanwhile, Southern Democrats created and enforced Jim Crow laws, maintaining segregation and opposing civil rights for African Americans well into the 20th century. Even Democrat President Woodrow Wilson was a staunch racist who wanted complete government control and created the Internal Revenue Service with the 16th Amendment in 1913 and the Federal Reserve to take more money from Americans. By the 1930s, under Franklin D. Roosevelt,
he created the Federal Reserve to take more money from Americans. That's a weird way of putting it. The Federal Reserve was established. I mean, this is the official reason to prevent recessions and depressions, or at least severe recessions. Recessions are usually inevitable, but yeah. So the way he framed that there was pretty interesting.
The Democratic Party began courting working class voters, including Northern Black communities, with programs like the New Deal. But FDR did little to nothing to improve race relations in the South and refused to support anti-lynching legislation or desegregation of the military.
This is true. Yeah. He didn't want to lose that Southern support.
He confiscated gold supplies from Americans, and he had the opportunity to desegregate the military and allow the immigration of Jews under persecution from Germany and Austria. And
yeah, that is technically true. The confiscation of gold, though, that I don't. It's just a little misleading too. I think it was not just like. Okay, he's talking about Executive Order 6102. Signed by FDR on April 5th, 1933. But there was like a reason behind it. I don't remember the exact specific reason. Oh, the stated reason for the order was that hard times had caused hoarding of gold, stalling economic growth, and worsening of the Depression. So this is when the Great Depression was at its worst. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either. Yeah, I could say I'm not a fan of that either. There's a reason why FDR is not my favorite president. He barely makes my top 10 at this point, mostly because of the Japanese internment, but a couple other things as well.
He refused. See our videos on FDR.
Oh, I'm sure they're very
The
negative.
Democrats also supported labor unions, which the Republicans in general saw as a communist attempt to control effective business practices. The Northern Democrats tended to be supportive of civil rights for Blacks to gain their support away from the Republican Party, which was business friendly and pushing for limited government involvement. But this divided the Democrats. Southern Democrats remained fiercely segregationist, while Northern Democrats grew more supportive of civil rights, causing growing tension within the party. The 1950s and 60s pressure mounted. Northern Democrats supported civil rights legislation to secure Black votes, while Southern Democrats resisted fiercely, trying to block Blacks from voting. Senators like...
I mean, so far, most of this video is good information. I don't know where the debunking or the myth part is.
Strom Thurmond and Robert Byrd, the latter a former KKK member, and see our video on him, were both Democrats who led the charge against civil rights from within the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
The other major opponent to civil and voting
Ooh.
rights for blacks in the South was Texas Senator Lyndon Baines
Is that an AI image?
Johnson, the future president, who, along with Democratic Senator Robert C. Byrd of West Virginia, fought tooth and nail to keep blacks from receiving legal recourse under the Constitution. Senator Byrd himself had, in the early 1940s, recruited about 150 of his friends and relatives and other associates to create a new chapter of the Ku Klux Klan in Sophia, West Virginia.
Yep.
He later changed his political position on civil rights as well, but remained
Not until like
a
the
Democrat.
90s.
Despite his long history of being previously opposed to the various civil rights bills, LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, largely due to political pressure and the rise of figures like Republican Barry Goldwater, who opposed federal overreach and supported racial equality. This alienated many white Southern Democrats, also known as Dixiecrats, who had historically opposed integration and supported segregation. This was when the Republican Party began to appeal to Southern Democrats who wanted limited government in their lives, greater states' rights, and the social conservative platform of Republicans began to appeal to many Southerners who were drifting away from the racial mindset. Goldwater's posture and perceived hardline stance against communism was in alignment with conservatives, but it was also used against him, a position which LBJ initially claimed publicly to be opposed to, despite his later creating the Gulf of Tonkin incident as a ruse to get legislation passed to send American combat troops to South Vietnam.
Yeah, I'm glad that he's mentioning the Gulf of Tonkin incident being a ruse. Most of this information so far has been actually pretty good. So, but we're going to see how he draws conclusion from the same information that we all know.
Due to the creation of welfare and other entitlements by the Johnson administration in order to buy the black vote through generational patronage, Democrats had a durable base among minorities.
Okay, so this is problematic. He's saying that the reason why Democrats supported social programs was to essentially buy the black vote. And then look at what he put on the screen here. Pro-Marxist. Northern Democrats were pro-Marxist. That is an insane claim to make. Pro-immigration, I mean, like, I guess that's mostly, yeah, most of the pro-immigration legislation that we saw in the 60s was led by Northern Democrats, but also some Northern Republicans. And definitely Southern Democrats were more religious and more conservative and more anti-immigration. That part is correct.
Urban voters and socially liberal intellectuals. Also, Southern Democrats were anti-legal immigration into their states, while the Northern Democrats promoted legal immigration. Also, Southern Protestants were typically more religious and church-going, while the Northern, East, and West Coast Democrats began to walk away from organized religion and adopted pro-Marxist platforms, which were deemed by Southern conservatives as anti-American.
Yeah, I think we're getting a lot of AI in this video.
This all triggered a backlash, and Johnson famously said, "We have lost the South for a generation, but we have the black vote for the next 200 years." This was the moment when many Southern white voters, alienated by civil rights policies and federal...
Should have known he was going to mention that quote. That gets quoted a lot by right-leaning folks. But it's not like that was the mainstream opinion of Democrats at the time.
For expansion began to shift toward the Republican Party, not because the GOP embraced racism, but because it promoted limited government, states' rights, and traditional family values. Another factor aiding in the shift was the Vietnam War.
Traditional family values. That's one of the most meaningless phrases you will ever hear. I can't wait till I finally make a video about that topic. What are family values? Can anybody tell me? Talk about meaningless. You might as well just say blah, 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 blah. You might as well just say that, because that means the same thing as family values. Oh, I when I hear a politician say that crap, I also just cringe like no other.
Which also divided the country along political lines, and LBJ took the greatest criticism from his own party as a result. Democrats were heavily divided on Vietnam as well. The majority of politically liberal Democrats opposed their own Democrat President Johnson regarding U.S. involvement, while more conservative Democrats and Republicans either took a neutral or pro-American involvement in fighting communism. In 1968, Richard M. Nixon ran on the presidential GOP ticket, and he courted disaffected Southern whites using code words like law and order, states' rights, and opposition to forced busing, while still maintaining the GOP support for Black rights, which
I mean, states' rights has always been a dog whistle to especially Southerners that says, hey, if you guys want to do something that's not very popular, states' rights. Yeah, states' rights. And usually we're talking racist stuff, racial segregation, other laws that target minorities. But in more recent years, states' rights means, like, to a lot of people, well, yeah, we gotta have a right to pass this anti-transgender bill, or restrict voting rights, which usually disproportionately affects minorities and first-generation Americans. So yeah, that's where, when they say states' rights, and then of course going back to before the Civil War in antebellum America, states' rights was often a dog whistle for just like, no, we like slavery. We want to keep slavery. It wasn't really about states' rights. It was about preserving slavery.
Still divided Democrats. This opened the door for Republicans, notably Richard Nixon and later Ronald Reagan, who used what has become known as the Southern strategy to gain support in the South by appealing to concerns about federal overreach against states' rights and cultural change. Richard Nixon's Southern strategy emphasized law and order and opposition to federal busing policies, which was a big deal to Democrats, appeals that resonated with voters frustrated by cultural and political upheaval. Nixon had campaigned on getting out of Vietnam, which satisfied many of both parties' voters and also added Southern whites to Republican rolls. Nixon also ended the Democrat-created Tuskegee syphilis experiment program created by Democrats, among other legislation, and see our video on Nixon. Ronald Reagan later unified these groups into a larger conservative coalition, business leaders, evangelicals, and working class whites, under the banner of small government and anti-socialist policy.
I can't state this enough. I know many of you have heard me say this before, but a big reason why Reagan got so popular and got so much support from working class whites in particular was his efforts to fight inflation. And think about this. It's similar to today. You have several years, almost a decade of nonstop inflation rates that are much higher than today, actually. And wages are not going up quite as they were before. In fact, wages have been stagnant in the United States, more or less, going back to the late 1970s. So if you're like, for the first time, you're not getting a raise every year, 1978, 1979, 1980, but prices are still going way, way up, you want a dramatic change in leadership. And Reagan offered that. And then flash forward to 1984, by that time, inflation was going down because Paul Volcker, his efforts as chairman of the Federal Reserve, had worked at, making it so that it was difficult to get money, a hard money policy and he also dramatically raising interest rates that actually, I would argue, did work at defeating inflation. So that's the big reason why Reagan was able to broaden his support. Don't get fooled by all this other stuff like, oh, the country was going more conservative socially. A little bit, but not. It's mainly the economic stuff.
Democrats became the party of urban centers, progressives, minorities, and coastal elites. They eventually abandoned the Ku Klux Klan, which
plenty of Republicans are also coastal elites. I mean, look at freaking George H.W. Bush.
They had created after the Civil War and supported for a century because the hate group had become too toxic. Republicans attracted religious conservatives, rural voters, small business owners, and working class traditionalists, especially in the South and Midwest, as progressive Democrats, especially in the North, turned away from supporting religion, which conservatives found appalling. Yes, it is true that some Democrat figures switched
I don't know if they were anti-religious, but perhaps more accurately, less religious than their Southern counterparts, generally speaking, but still pretty religious.
parties like Strom Thurmond of South Carolina.
You're
But
Strom
the
again.
idea that the GOP adopted the racist legacy of the Democratic South is misleading and patently false. The Ku Klux Klan, for instance, was never embraced by the GOP. In fact, the Reagan administration helped dismantle it
Martin Luther
legally
King
and
Jr.
financially,
Day.
effectively destroying it. Over the years, Democrats embraced more progressive positions on gun control, gender identity, immigration, and race. They allied with activist groups like Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and others whose critics argued furthered social and political division and supported wanton violence. Meanwhile,
Of course, he's got to show Antifa in there, and he's got to show the most extreme demonstrations we saw in 2020.
many centrist and conservative Democrats, especially in the South, left the party altogether, becoming Republicans or independents. This wasn't a swap, it was an evolution. In essence, the Democrats who have revised their history to remove the stains of slavery, Jim Crow, and violence against blacks have lost control. Democrats love to identify Republicans as being the party of racist and anti-middle class workers. They claim that Republicans adopted all the evils of the old Democrats while never acknowledging the fact that the Democrats were the progenitors of the evil they now claim to oppose.
Okay, there's a lot of things wrong with what he just said, but first of all, it's another straw man attack. I don't know any Democrat. I don't think there's any Democrat that I've ever seen who has said that all Republicans are racist, that all of them support the KKK and racial segregation. I mean, let me just play that again here. Like this is a ridiculous thing to say.
Of racist and anti-middle class workers. They claim that Republicans adopted all the evils of the old Democrats while never acknowledging the fact that the Democrats were the progenitors of the evil they now claim to oppose.
No, they also say, yes, of course, most Democrats today will quickly say, yeah, Democrats used to be very racist. And when he says it's a natural evolution, of course, but doesn't that kind of defeat the whole point of the video? Like the whole point of the video is you're supposed to be debunking the myth of the party switch. Well, you're just admitting that it did switch. The fact of the matter remains that if you are anti-immigrant, if you are xenophobic, nativist, racist, you're probably more likely to support the Republican Party than the Democratic Party today. That's just a fact. I know it's a lot of Republicans don't like to hear that. And again, I want to stress, it doesn't mean that every Republican is racist. Most Republicans are not racist, okay? But, you know, there are certain patterns we just can't ignore.
So let's set the record straight.
Oh,
the Republican
X.
Party did not become the party of racism. The Democratic Party didn't suddenly erase its legacy.
Yeah, I agree with that first statement. Second statement, Democratic Party didn't suddenly erase its legacy of slavery. Okay, fine. Like,
Of slavery, segregation, opposition to civil rights, lynching, and violence. The great lie that was created and still pushed by Democrats is that the Great Switch included the Republicans adopting a racist and domestic terror policy and embracing groups such as the Ku Klux Klan, which never happened.
I think the more accurate claim is that a lot of Democrats do talk about the Southern strategy. That was a real thing. Lee Atwood famously admitted it was a real thing, but the campaign strategy of Republicans in the 1970s to court Southerners by either ignoring racial issues or sending certain coded messages to Southerners saying, hey, we're on your side, and we think this civil rights stuff is bull. Even though, like, yeah, the official policies of the Republican Party were not overtly racist. Absolutely not. But yeah, the Southern strategy was a real thing.
In fact, it was under Reagan that the Klan was finally destroyed.
The Klan was never destroyed. What are you talking about, dude? The Klan still exists.
However,
I mean, Ulysses Grant was successful at really almost destroying the KKK back in the 1870s.
Ultra-right nationalist groups that arose have traditionally been Republican in their voting habits since the late 1970s, while ultra-left domestic terror groups remained entrenched within the Democrat Party, replacing the far-right Democrats created and supported KKK. In fact, the modern Democrats today still support active violence. But did the parties really switch? Well, not exactly.
What a statement. What a claim. Modern Democrats today do support violence. Wow, dude.
There was no official swap of platforms or party names. Instead, there was a gradual realignment of coalitions. The Republican base grew in the South and included all these previous groups because they were socially conservative working class Americans. And recently, many Democrats who abandoned their party and registered as Republicans or independents actually voted for Donald Trump. The Reagan Revolution in the 1980s brought together business interests and everyone else who felt disenfranchised by Democrat politics, and they united under the GOP brand using an anti-liberal, anti-socialist states' rights message and limited government platform. The shift was a gradual realignment of voters' ideologies and regional priorities, not a clean switch. The Democrat platform wanted to abolish the Second Amendment. That was a large part of the political shift in politics. Over time, Democrats became
another wild claim in a supposed history video to say the Democrats wanted to abolish the Second Amendment. What a crazy thing to say, especially in a supposed history video.
Platform wanted to abolish the Second Amendment.
That's insane.
That was a large part
Not
of the
true at
political
all.
shift in politics.
No.
Over time, Democrats became more aligned with the urban minority and progressive voter in major cities on the East and West Coast and in large northern and even some southern cities, while the Republicans have attracted and contained and retained rural, religious, and conservative voters, particularly in the South and Midwest. More recent Democrat-supported criminal entities such as Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and see our video on BLM, and even their left-wing socialist predecessors like the Weather Underground terrorists.
Of course, Weather Underground,
also
a very, very small group, but of course he's going to mention
them. On them remained loyal to and were supported by the
linking the Weather Underground to Black Lives Matter. That's great. Yeah.
Democrats, and still are to this day. These actions drove conservative Democrats even further away from the party and further divided Democrats and forced others to change affiliation. The argument had been that the parties literally swapped the names and positions, but the parties evolved gradually, and their ideological coalition shifted, and Democrat methods remained pretty much the same. Today's political map reflects decades.
Democrat methods remained pretty much the same. What do you mean, Democrat methods? What do you? This is a strange video
of migration, economic change, and cultural realignment. Not a simple party flip. African American voters who largely supported the GOP after the Civil War began overwhelmingly voting Democrat after the 1960s due to the laws passed by LBJ, and the Black support regarding both parties still favor the Democrats, but in far less numbers today. It's not about who changed names. It's about who showed up and what they stood for. People generally vote with their pocketbooks, and Democrat policies have always increased taxes, reduced employment opportunities, increased interest and mortgage rates, increased nonsensical spending at home and abroad, as well as increased the general cost of living.
Yeah, Democratic Party famously in the 1800s wanted fewer taxes. They were the party that called for a decline in tariffs. So that is historically inaccurate. Reduced employment opportunities. What are you talking about, dude? The Democratic Party was the ones that passed a bunch of employment legislation in the 60s. And think about the New Deal. I mean, half of the New Deal legislation in 1933, 1934 was related to getting people working again. Increasing interest in mortgage rates. That's a bipartisan thing. Increasing nonsensical spending. Well, not what does nonsensical mean? I mean, that's up to interpretation. But that's also a bipartisan thing. The current Trump administration is not reducing spending compared to Biden. Actually, he's increasing spending. And increase the cost of living. Has little to do with political parties. So Like, how can you in a supposedly educational video put this on the screen and just state it as a fact? Imagine if I did something like this, like talking about the Republican Party. It's just wild, man. This is a wild video.
At home and abroad, as well as increased the general cost of living. But perhaps the greatest driving force sending former Democrats to the middle or right were the Biden administration's policies on taxpayers funding millions of illegal immigrants, importing and increasing violent crime, and the liberal Democrat supporting and George Soros funded mainstream
George
media
Soros,
being
there he
caught in
is.
thousands of lies, supporting Democratic criminal activities, and creating conspiracies against conservatives. And see our video on George Soros.
Oh, I got to react to that one.
So to set the record straight, the two parties didn't switch names or trade platforms. What changed were their coalitions, the kinds of voters they attracted, and the cultural issues they championed. So yes, there was a switch of sorts, but it was simply a matter of those citizens with a socially and fiscally conservative mindset drifting.
The name of the video is called The Myth of the Party Switch. And literally at the end of the video, he says, so yeah, there was a switch of sorts. Oh, dude. I don't want to be mean to this guy, but and I know some of you had some comments about lead, but what is going on? But this guy has over 1 million subscribers. That's why I'm reacting to him.
More to the political right to whom they were aligned, and today's socialist liberal tax and spend collective remaining on the left.
Okay, socialist liberal is an oxymoron. They don't go together.
As simple as that.
As simple as that. Okay.
Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History.
Look at all those Patreon supporters he gets. Probably more than I do, because this guy's not a historian, like he says right there. He's an activist. I mean, it's okay if you're going to be an activist. I have started to become more of an activist. I sometimes release opinion videos, but if you're going to give your opinion, say it's your opinion. This video has plenty of facts. This video has plenty of things that are historically true, as best to our knowledge. But he also just sprinkles in a bunch of propaganda and straight up just lies that are meant to prop up his existing political beliefs. Insane that this guy just calls himself a history channel. The name of the channel is called Forgotten History. Over 1 million subscribers. This video has almost 500,000 views. It came out 7 months ago. And then, of course, these people commenting all just eat this stuff right up. One of the best kept Democrat secrets is that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 would never have passed without the majority of Republicans in Congress. 74% of Democrats in the House and 78% of the Democrats in the Senate voted against it. Okay, what's your freaking point, dude? What is your point? Because all you're doing is you're backing up the claim that the party did switch. I mean, if you don't want to use that word switch, okay, fine. Because I do think evolve is the more accurate term to use. That's fine. But man, this comment here, I used to believe that the party, quote, switched. Then I realized the Democrats don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. I got to click away from this because this is really going to make me lose control like Missy Elliott. I can't believe what we just watched, what we just witnessed. That was real. That was a real video. That's a real man that made that video. Calls himself a history channel. And they say I'm biased. I mean, I am biased, but holy crap. Yeah, think about how many classrooms that video you just watched is actually shown to a captive audience of students. Like, I never showed my students a video that was just my opinion. I think the one exception was like, oh, I'm actually personally against the Electoral College. And I did say, hey, I have this video. But we had a debate about the Electoral College. And in fact, my students over time shifted my own opinion about the Electoral College. Like, I sure as heck hope that teachers are not playing this crap in their classroom. Oh my gosh. You're emailing every senator right now. Mortal leader, you're a hero. Okay, I was going to wrap things up with an announcement, actually. Mr. Beat viewers are the best. What can I say? I'm a little biased, but they're kind of the smartest people in the world. You know? I was taught the Lost Cause myth in South Central Kansas growing up, especially like in high school. In the late 1990s, I was still getting taught Lost Cause, and I believed it into college. It was only in college, and I was like, wait a second. I started to question it. Of course, they'll say that college indoctrinated me, but well, hold on. Aren't you more likely to be indoctrinated if you're a kid than a young adult or an adult, straight up adult? Okay, I have an announcement. I'm going to release a video about this over the weekend, but Monday, February 2nd is not only Groundhog Day, but it's also a day I'm trying to get at least 200 people to email my representative, Tracy Mann, to try to convince him to uncap the House of Representatives. Let me repeat. Monday, February 2nd, I'm trying to get 200 people to all email my congressman, Tracy Mann, to uncap the House of Representatives. If you could please do that, if you are an American watching this right now, and if you could please do that, I would greatly appreciate it. It will take you 2 minutes to do. I'll put the link in the description right now of where you can go to do that. Not the description, in the chat. My bad. I'm not on YouTube. I'm on Twitch. Here is the link to contact him. It doesn't. Okay, if you're not a constituent, which obviously pretty much all of you are not, I don't care. Perhaps you could just say that you live in my district, you know, if they ask. They do ask for your address, but I think the whole point is just trying to get his attention because he is not responding to me. I have been emailing my congressman, Tracy Mann, every single day this year. So the last 29 days, I've sent him separate letters asking him to give me at least one reason why he currently does not support uncapping the House. He has failed to respond with he responded with like a canned AI written response, just explaining how it works, apportionment works. Okay, dude, I already know how it works. He has not responded by giving me one reason why he doesn't support uncapping the House. The only reason why I know that he doesn't support uncapping the House is because one of my former students works for him in his office and called me and said he doesn't support it. Also, he doesn't want to meet with you because I requested to meet with him. I emailed his media person. They will not meet with me. None of his staff will meet with me. Maybe my former student will, but I think I made him mad too. But my congressman will not meet with me. He will not respond to me. So I'm asking, sure, don't put my address. No. Mrs. Beat says, oh no, please, Mrs. Beat, listen to Mrs. Beat, whatever, she's the boss, whatever she says goes, please listen to her. Do not put our address. You don't, no. But if you could still reach out to him, or if you know somebody that lives in Kansas, that's the main thing. I'm blasting all my friends and family that live in Kansas, which is pretty much almost all my friends and family. And yeah, I'm hoping that Monday, February 2nd, I can get at least 200 people to email Tracy Mann to ask him why he doesn't support uncapping the House. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah, I'll put the link on Twitter and YouTube. When I post my video over the weekend, I'm going to do that. I've already filmed it. I called them again. They still are not answering my calls. I leave voicemails. It's getting frustrating. I knew it would be bad, which is why I knew it would be good content before I made this, but I didn't know it would be this bad. Like, this is worse than I was anticipating. Then that's saying a lot because I did not expect much out of my local representative. My representative does not represent me. After the Civil War, did the North become the center of national political power, have long-term effects that still shape? Oh, absolutely. And the Confederates, the former Confederate states, I feel like they never fully recovered from it because they always felt like they were shut out of the conversation. Even that goes even to the present day. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. It's been over an hour. Thank you for being here. If you're one of the newbies here, thank you for joining. I do this I wasn't here last Friday because I was out filming for a documentary, but Mrs. Beat and I were. But usually every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, I go live here exclusively on Twitch and react to a history video, or if there's something going on in the news that really will have historical implications. Lately, that's been more and more the case, unfortunately. So anyway, reminder about the boycott today. If you can, if you can't, that's okay. If you can, that'd be great. Obama's here. Obama. Okay. All right. Thanks, Obama. All right. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next time. Bye.